Hey guys, what's going on? So we're continuing with the changes made, starting with Roy. He had quite a lot of things changed, but it looks like they're almost all buffs. They're also all Transcendence perks, so no direct skill changes. Blade Claw Light is the same, just 20% more damage. I'll be honest, I'm not too well versed in Roy, but as far as I know, he needed crit rate, so that cooldown was removed. So his third skill, Dark, could be a massive change depending on that. His passive Light skill looks like it just gets a straight buff, 300 mana instead of 100. Also, his Dark passive gets a straight buff from 20% chance to 50% chance, and his T5 Dark is like totally changed. There used to be a cooldown of 20 seconds on it, and it was like 100% chance after using a skill he'll have 300 more attack speed and 60% crit damage for 10 seconds. But now every time he crits, there's a 50% chance that you'll get the same effect for 10 seconds, but there's no cooldown. So potentially you could have that all the time. And considering it's a 15% chance per crit hit, that is very likely actually if you have him at 100% crit. So in my opinion, that's a straight buff there, a pretty big one actually. I mean, Roy was already very strong, and it looks like he's getting pretty big buffs like across the board. So that's pretty damn crazy for those that have invested in Roy. Also, I'm not sure what his unique weapon did before the patch, but now the activation chance is increased as its star level goes up. So it may have just been 25% all across the star levels and just increased its damage and other effect, but now the activation chance goes up with its star level. So now we have Epis, no changes to Transcendence perks, but her first and third skill got nerfed. So her first skill only heals 25% of the damage as HP instead of 100% like it was before, and it's the same with the third skill, except it also costs an extra mana. So as far as her lifesteal is concerned, she got hit pretty hard there. I think it will affect her quite heavily in Arena, especially because her third skill is going to take 4 mana instead of 3, and that is a very powerful skill that usually wipes my team out when it gets off. But her S2 can still go back there, and then she can use her S1 still. She just won't heal quite as much, so I think she's still viable, but in Arena she's nerfed quite hard. Next we have Rodina. Hopefully she gets some buffs as well because she needs them. Well, her second skill, which I believe was an attack and crit buff, is getting increased. The attack portion at least is getting increased by 50%, and the skill duration and cooldown are both being increased to 10 seconds. I thought that's what they were before, but apparently not. Regardless, it should be able to have a 100% uptime since the cooldown and the duration are the same. Sharpened Light has a mana cost reduction instead of an attack boost. Her passive Light perk is a little bit confusing. It says damage is increased by 4% to enemies other than heroes. So does that mean like not in Arena? And then her Dark passive, should you choose to take it, is getting a buff because it's just damage instead of im damage, so that will include physical damage as well as magic damage. And her T5 Dark is also getting buffed, double chance to increase crit damage by 100% for 5 seconds. I don't think it's enough to make Rodina a good hero, but I guess they're at least going in the right direction. Fluss is also one that desperately needs a buff. Hopefully he gets something good here. His skill 2 flashed up, goes behind the enemy. Damage is increased by 20%. Auto attack and skill attack is upon the marked enemy in priority. Additional damage can trigger crit hit. What the hell does that mean? I'm not sure if that means he'll like mark the enemy that he first hits with flash step and then they'll just be priority to kill first, instead of like maybe switching targets in case the target he hit first like moves somehow. And Bloody Petals, his third skill, if the enemy he starts attacking dies, he'll move on to another enemy, so that's getting a buff there. And his unique weapon is getting a small buff as well, activating every 7 seconds instead of 10. So it might activate once, maybe twice in a longer arena battle, and since you're probably really only going to be using him for arena anyway, that's so again not enough to make him a good hero in my opinion. I wouldn't say Fluss is bad, it's just I would still rather take Tanya if I'm going to take an assassin. So apparently she won't be stacking bleed anymore with her first and third skill. She will be instead reducing the P crit resistance of the enemy she hits with her first skill, and with her third skill Light, the damage is increased by 100%, but the mana cost is also increased by 1. I don't think that's even necessary. Like, all my backline dies when Tanya uses her third skill, so it's like, I don't know if that's overkill, and then you need an extra mana. So when and if I decide to raise Tanya, I probably wouldn't even go for that, even though it does sound pretty good. Might make her viable for things outside of Arena, like maybe Dragon Raids or even World Boss. Miriana is getting a ton of changes. I can't even have Miriana with all the changes in the same screen. She also apparently has 34 skills, so that's a pretty big buff there. It looks like practically everything about her is changing. Skill 1 gets a 10% damage increase and a 1-second stun. Skill 2 gets another 10% damage increase and a 2-second stun, and double the shield duration. The skill effect that used to damage the boss now inflicts damage ignoring defense to the enemy, not to the hero anymore. Okay, let's get to the bottom of this. So additional damage will be applied as long as it's not a hero. So I would assume that just means arena. But I mean, she's an assassin, she's kind of meant for arena, so it's a little bit weird, but maybe it would be too powerful because it would also ignore defense, so that was the change there. And pretty much every Transcendence perk has been changed as well. The first skill's stun is increased by 1 second, so 2 seconds now. Her second skill's stun is increased by 2 seconds, so 4 seconds if you take that perk. Assassination Light will remove the positive effects, or you can take the Dark, which increases the damage by 40%. Personally, I would rather take this one because I'm pretty sure that is only one target, so kind of like Fluss and his flash step. So I would rather take this one, just get more damage. Again, unless she's your only dispeller and you don't have like Scarlet or Leo or whatnot that can dispel everyone. So her passive Light is getting changed as well, increasing your crit chance by 400 when there's an enemy inflicted with target lock-on. Target lock-on has a 6-second cooldown with a 5-second duration, so it could have an almost 100% uptime. It's definitely something to think about. And her T5 Dark perk is getting changed quite a lot as well. If she kills an enemy, all skill cooldowns are reduced by 50% and recovers 1 mana orb, so that could be deadly in arena if you can get her DPS high enough. With all these changes, maybe you can, but again, assassins aren't my strong suit, so I'm really sorry. It just feels like I'm reading off all the skills, like this video seems completely pointless so far. That's why I'm just trying to get through the assassins. We have archers next, but all in all, it looks like she'll be stunning a lot more CC, and she is a ranged assassin, like the only ranged assassin, so that is pretty interesting as well. So she can still jump back there to the back line with, I think, her assassination skill, but for the most part, she stays in the back with the wizards. So you can also kind of build her sub DPS and just stunning them all the time, just be annoying. So archers, we have Demael. His skill revamps is just giving him more power. There's literally nothing else to say there. And just one Transcendence perk. It's similar, it just doesn't require an extra mana, but also doesn't reduce a mana orb from the enemies. I'm not too sure if that's enough to bring him back into the spotlight. I think it was his third skill that does so much damage, so that not getting increased, I don't know, might make his other skills more viable though. Moving on to Luna, just a couple Transcendence perk revamps. I would say her first skill, Pew, got a buff, because instead of 2 seconds at a 20% chance, it's now 1 second period, so regardless. And I think that'll be good to maybe actually counter Scarlet a little bit, since she can be CC'd now, and this skill does hit everyone on the field, so it's not really for the 1 second stun, it's for the interruption of skills, and I think for that it would actually be pretty good. Also, look out above, you can ignore this one probably unless you're strictly taking Luna only for arena, but even then I would still take the 3 carrots for 2 extra mana instead of ignoring the enemy block, because a lot of people are preparing for fighting Epises that also ignores enemy block on one of her T4 perks. Well, I guess it's T3 now. So they'll either have like Laius's back there with Tough runes, so that wouldn't do much anyway because Luna also hits the furthest back. And Arch is getting nerfed again. The shield effect and the duration are just both cut in half. I thought they were kind of done with Arch. I thought they kind of beat him up enough, but it looks like not. But okay, not much else to say. Rest in peace, I guess, unless I'm misunderstanding something. I can't believe they would nerf him again. He's not even really a problem anymore. It's like kicking him while he's down at this point. So moving on to mechanics now, starting with Blackrock. He got skill revamps on his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th skill. So the projectile speed of Smoke Bomb is increased, which is good because that was a damn slow moving bomb there. His Glue Bomb got a straight buff because it'll also stun the target for 2 seconds upon landing the bomb. Damn, and his passive Load Cannon is getting a cast speed and projectile speed increased. I think the thing is they're just going to keep buffing Blackrock until people start finally using him. Like, he's not bad, he's just way too beautiful that people can't handle it and can't use him because, you know, they'll get distracted all the time. One of his Transcendence perks for Glue Bomb, mana cost is reduced by 1. I think that will be pretty big because that is a very powerful skill. Might potentially have one-shot capabilities, and it'll also stun them for 2 seconds. And the cooldown is removed from the unique weapon effect, so he can potentially have a 100% uptime on that attack speed boost. Blackrock is getting awesome. Still no one's using him, but he's actually getting quite awesome. Rodina, another not very popular pick. let's see what happens to her. So right off the bat, she's getting a massive damage increase to her passive skill, Rapid Shot. Every 10 seconds, she'll attack the target twice, dealing now 300% more damage. And that's the only thing happening to her skills, but she's getting quite a lot of perk revamps as well. Penetration Shot Dark is getting a straight buff. It's the same effect, but you don't need an additional mana for it. You just have that CC immunity while using the skill, which I think is practically needed if you're going to use her anywhere, because that skill takes a long time to set up. I'm not too sure if CC immunity is dispellable. I think it is, because sometimes while I'm using Mediana's healing beam thing, I also have the CC immunity perk, but she can still get interrupted. So, you know, it's not perfect, but I still think it's practically needed in most cases. Focused Fire Light's getting a straight buff, 5% cooldown reduction instead of 3 when crit. Focused Fire Dark is just getting changed to ignore block, but that's very interesting because I think she is the first physical block ignorer, since she's a physical attacker, and so she could ignore that physical block. That could be very interesting. And her passive Dark is getting just changed. Enemies hit or stun for 2 seconds, and that happens every 10 seconds, so could be kind of annoying. Not sure if I'd go for it personally, but it's there. I have no idea what a headshot does, but she's having a 3 times higher chance to do it while auto-attacking. I assume it's like maybe a super critical hit, and her unique weapon damage is increased by 100. So she's getting some pretty massive buffs, perhaps enough to bring her into the spotlight. It's too early to tell right now, but if they eventually make the CC immunity like non-dispellable, then I would say definitely, because I know Penetration Shot is a one-shot skill. Next we have Annette. There's really nothing to say here. She's getting like a straight buff to pretty much everything. Blasting Ray is getting an attack increase of 50%, emergency treatment, recovery increases by 30%, process of elimination, damage is increased. One really cool thing is that her charge cannot be dispelled. I love undispellable things with how many dispellers we have by now, especially if you're gonna take her into arena. I mean, I'm not sure. I've heard Annette's not very good in arena, but I've also seen her work there, so maybe now that it can't be dispelled, if there's even enough time to get overcharge going in an arena battle. She also gets a bit of amp capability here. I know she had that before, but a little bit more, at least, on Blasting Ray. 25% more im damage for 10 seconds. And Mitra is getting a tiny little nerf. His Dance With Me skill 3 is going to cost 1 more mana. And that's pretty much it. We're going to go over wizards and priests since there are a lot of them in the next video. So this will have to be a little 3-part series here because there's just so much to go over. So again, make sure to tell me what you think about the mechanic, archer, and assassin class changes in the comments down below. Leaving a like would also be greatly appreciated if you did happen to enjoy. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.